My name is Mike Shepard. I'm a producer. I want to get to know the artists in my new community. This is 1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists.
How did you get here and where did you come from? Tell me where you've been and where you're going.
Okay. Hello, my name is Savannah Shea. I am a musician, a music teacher, and a visual artist.
This week is going to be a little bit different because I just so happened to be on the road in Kingston, Ontario. So I had a chance to sit down with two artists that I have had the pleasure of working with before in the past. So this week and next week will be kind of an on the road series, if you want to call it that, where I'm connecting with a few artists from my past, but also who are still working in various ways. This week I got a great chance to chat with Savannah, who is someone who I've worked with before back in my theater days, but have since moved on. She's become a very successful musician, doing a lot of various gigs and performing. She's very talented, and I know she'll play in the Ottawa area if the opportunity does come her way. So I thought that it was still fitting for this series, and I really wanted to have this opportunity to sit down with Savannah. She is the voice that you hear behind the music of this podcast, and she's someone who has a lot of really interesting things to say. What I liked most about my conversation with Savannah is it was very honest and it felt very real and felt very casual. That's not something that I think I'll have the opportunity to experience with everyone I meet. When you're just meeting artists, when you're just sitting down with people, there is a certain level of awkwardness or not being too sure about what to say or where to push, or if I'm pushing too much or if I'm not pushing enough, or how to kind of navigate those waters. With Savannah, it just felt very natural. It felt very casual, a very nice conversation, what I really want this series to evolve to. I really liked our conversation about ego, what that means, both positive and negative, how ego has such a negative connotation and feeling to it, but it is just a thing. And depending upon how you use it, it can be very positive. Having a lot of confidence can be very helpful. And I really like that part of our conversation. This was a little bit of a longer one. I've done some trimming down, which I will do every week, but this one in particular, I did quite a bit of trimming down because, as as Savannah and I talk about, I'm okay and comfortable with a spotlight, but I don't really seek it out. Savannah was very, very good in this conversation of asking me questions, making it a true conversation. Two people talking, asking questions about things, kind of catching up. So I cut out a few things that were more about me that I felt didn't need to be part of this episode. I really think Savannah is a talented artist who says a lot through her music. You hear her talk about that, and obviously I will not put words in her mouth and explain that. She does a much better job. And I think that was really the core of what I got out of this conversation, a chance to sit down with someone who felt so much through the music that she creates, through the singing that she does, even teaching and painting and all these other things that she does. I really felt like it was a worthwhile conversation just to listen to that process. And I do find it fascinating. My conversation with Savannah was on a really lovely Friday mid to late morning, early afternoon at Pan Chancho's, which is a bakery and cafe in Kingston, Ontario. They do a lovely brunch menu. It was a great setting. It was busy, the busiest setting I've had thus far. So I apologize. There is some background music, a little bit of talking, things that you have to work around. But I think for the most part, our conversation comes through quite clearly, and I'm really glad to have had this opportunity to reconnect back with Savannah.
Do you consider yourself an artist?
Yes,
Okay. How come? I mean, I would agree, but why do you think you are?
because I
tell a story through an act of creation, but the creation is just not my own. I find others
Right.
and give them the platform
Right.
to tell the story. Because that's how I would define art.
Like,
I define art
okay,
as
yeah.
you tell a story through an act of creation. Because even if you're expressing something, there's a story behind that expression. And to me, that's what art has always been.
Right. Or like a director, like, you know, like that, there's like a one level remove, but you're like puppeteering a little bit.
Yeah, like I'm kind of the person who would hire I see myself as a producer.
Oh, producer.
Or a curator.
Right.
I'm the person who finds the talent, gives them the space, finds the money, creates the opportunity.
Right.
And that's
sweet.
what I think I do.
Yeah.
I'm the person who goes, oh, I know this talented person. They have a story they want to tell. Now I'm going to figure out a way to do it.
True. Yeah. My dad always quotes, I think it's Scott Galloway. Do you know that guy? He's a podcast. But he's like, chase the dream that's chasing you, you know? It's like, even if you have like multiple avenues of what you could do or could be, like, what's the thing that's actually like, you know, if you found that in producing, you have more. I feel like if with art too, it's like, where do you have the most impact?
Yeah.
And if that's where you're having impact, then.
Yeah, I mean, impact. And I think also I'm not uncomfortable in the spotlight, but I don't want the spotlight. If a spotlight is on me, I know what to do.
Right.
And I think I'm pretty good at it, being able to communicate and talk to people. But I would prefer no one ever look at me, no one ever talk to me.
Can't relate. Like, where is it? What part of your ego do you need fulfilled? Like, what is the ego thing that's like, oh, I need this specific kind of credit, or I need someone to be like, you know, we know you did this. Like, how do you relate to that with ego?
It has to come from me.
You're totally self-sustaining?
If it comes from another person, I don't believe it, I reject it, and I don't care.
Not even people you admire?
No.
Whoa.
No. If it might drive me to be like, okay, now I have to build up to what they're saying I am, because I don't believe I'm there. But when someone compliments me and says like, oh, the marketing on this was good, my response is always, if it was good, I say, yeah, I agree, I thought it was very well done. If not, I go, no, it wasn't. So yes, it is a little bit.
So you trust yourself so wholeheartedly.
Yes, I do.
That you get to sustain your own ego.
That's correct.
That's why you're not a performer.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Why is that so? As a performer, is that the opposite of what you're saying? Like,
well,
no,
but there's like nothing I like more than being on stage and doing something that I know I'm good at, and then having people immediately affirm me. And I couldn't do that for me sitting in my bedroom alone.
Right.
If I sing and sit in my bedroom alone, I'm like, this isn't very good. And then as soon as there are people in front of me, I'm like, I'm pretty good at this.
What does that affirmation look like? Is it
from people?
Yeah. Is it cheers, applause, focus, concentration?
Like,
what?
So last night at the best form of it was last night at the show. There were people in the audience sitting, everyone sitting, listening, watching, nodding, just like, you know, and you can see people at a show where they'll be sitting and but you can tell when they're in it or they're not. They'll be on their phones or whatever. But when someone's sitting and like nodding along with what you're doing and the art you're making, but it's all forms of it. And then people coming up after and saying like, you made me cry, or like, you know, this made me think of that, or, you know, all those things that are. I was thinking about this the other day because I've been trying to my former not manifesto, but like thesis of why I'm an artist was like, I want to connect with people and like bring light and whatever. And I think that was too broad, and I've been trying to like narrow it because I play all these bar gigs that feel kind of like, you know. So I was like, how can I narrow it? And what it came down to was like emotional blocks that I have in me, like that feel like physical. Like, oh, I'll have this like, I mean, I'm not describing this well, but I want to create art that like moves emotional blocks in people to some degree. Do you know what I mean by that?
I do.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So it's like for example, the physical experience of feeling like kind of tight in your chest and like your heart is like not open. Like I want to be able to make a piece of art that like lets somebody cry or lets somebody feel something, that even if it's just like a little shift. I think it's just like, how can I shift energy? So that's the current. And I think that was happening last night. I got reviewed, and like when people say what you did shifted my energy, I'm like, okay.
So you said your former thesis or manifesto of an artist.
Yeah.
Why do you need one?
To have it's for me. It's
for you.
It's so that I can be a person with a job as a musician and not give up on myself. Like, it's just, you're like, I have like 4 shows this weekend, you know, and it's like, if I go to all those shows and don't have a purpose for it, why, or it's not that the purpose is inherent, it's there, but like the one liner about the purpose is like the reminder to myself of like, oh yeah, when you feel your voice is tired and you feel like no one's paying attention to you and like you're sick of playing the same songs over and over again, this is why you're doing this. Yeah, it's like refocusing the path.
I like that, refocusing. I think that's really healthy.
Yeah, I think. Well, I went to music school, and that like drains your. I mean, you went to art school. You know
Yeah.
that's like it can drain your love of this thing that you grew up loving.
Of course.
So you have to figure out how to rebuild a relationship that includes money and includes joy and includes like it's your hobby also. And so if you're not intentional about how you relate to it, it will be shitty.
I think you're nailing it on the head.
I thought you were about to challenge me there. I was so
No,
excited.
because to me that's the difference that we're
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
My goals have a financial or structural
Right.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yours don't, and that's why the pairings work. Of a
Right.
producer or a
Yeah.
curator or a manager with an artist, that's why it works. You, from an artist standpoint, this is just my opinion, putting words in your mouth.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want me if I was producing a show for you. If I was like, okay, I'm going to bring Savannah to this venue, and I'm going to.
Yeah.
You don't want me feeling the same things you do. You want me
No,
out there.
it would never happen.
No, exactly. Maybe you want me being like people in seats, how much we're charging. This is the structure and everything, so you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about it. You create your art and perform it the way you want to. I make sure you're looking at
Yeah.
150 people as
Yeah.
opposed to 2.
I teach a little bit as well.
Okay.
And I struggle. I've moved towards only teaching kind of like late teens or adults because I
But
kind
you
of wanted,
used to do younger.
I used to teach younger
Okay.
kids, but I found that the way that I want to teach is the way that I like to be taught as an adult, which is like singing is so vulnerable, it's emotional,
Right.
like. So my experience of like voice lessons as an adult is like you go in and you just cry because you realize that you're about to vocalize, and like if you're holding anything in and you have to sing, there's like so much that sits in your throat.
Really?
And it's just so vocal lessons are like have been therapy to me basically.
I didn't realize it was that personal.
For me, it has been.
Sure.
Because I like have a song about this, but like I think a lot about the fact that an angel moment.
Here comes the sun.
Here
Yeah.
comes the sun.
Yeah.
That like the reasons that I sing are because I like didn't learn how to properly express both like with speaking or communicating.
Right.
And so when I get to sing a song that's like saying all the things I've never ever said to anybody but I wanted to say, it's like it's so intense. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is because moving towards teaching more adults because I want to teach in a way that allows me to like feel my feelings in front of the people I work with, you know what I mean? And be like, yeah, this is sad, this is intense, or like, or are you having vocal pain and you know, it doesn't feel the same way it used to, or you haven't sung in all these years because you had a child and now you're like, trying to find yourself again and through music, it's all these things. And so I'm trying to foster a workspace where I get to actually be in emotions with them as opposed to like, but then it is this boundary sometimes of like holding space versus over-identifying.
Well, how do you manage that? Like, how do you navigate such a fine line that I think a lot of people can relate to that. That's a fine line to be tightrope walking, really.
I think I just am myself, and then if someone finds that I'm too, overshare or like the way that I work is too much, they won't work with me. And then the people who appreciate that continue. Like I think I don't try to be different than what I would want. And I let the clients, shift themselves around. Like that's the luxury of like having other work, like I primarily am a performer and like that's how I want to make my living. And teaching is like something I really love, but it's supplementary. And so I'm not out there on the web being like, come and take my lessons. Like I'm not trying to get people. It's like people who know me, people who have seen me perform that are like, or heard my songs that are like, oh, I want to write songs like that or whatever. Like people are coming to me based on the fact that I am a performer. So usually the people I'm getting are already kind of like in the vibe.
Yeah, that's
I don't have
true.
to convince anybody. But that's the part of it. Like I was teaching at Long and McQuaid, and I would just have like a slew of kids come through for like half hour at a time, and I was like, I don't know how to hold space for this. I don't have the organizational skills, or let me just say that I don't have the desire to develop the organizational skills to like make everybody a little individual lesson, and like that's just not the way that I think music should be. That's not the way that I would best transmute music to children. The best thing is for them to come see me perform and me to talk to them about what they like and like, let's listen to music. And that's not what parents want out of a lesson. So I had to change that up a bit.
I think that's understandable. Not that I have nothing against any of those kinds of institutions or
oh my God,
classroom
no.
settings.
They're amazing.
But I think their goals and what they need to do and what they're looking to do is just a little different than what you're describing.
And I wouldn't be the musician that I am without that kind of structure.
Right.
Like I needed that, but I know within myself that that's not the kind of educator I can be. To relate it to the like part of the whole goal of what I love to do is like this connecting piece, and it's the bubble you create with the audience in the moment of the show. Like I do love to record. I love the idea of having an amazing album out there. It's gonna happen. It hasn't happened yet, but like to me, performing is like the heart of everything.
Live performance.
Yeah, and that may just be like financial right now. Like that's,
sure,
I'm making money and I don't have like a studio.
You still have to do those things.
Yeah,
right? Like you still need to make money while you
for sure. But like, what I like about performing is how you hold the like bubble of everyone that's decided to be there in that moment. And it's like through music, obviously, but it's also through like the banter, which is where the comedy piece comes in for me, because like just asking through the process of like, if I play a Sunday afternoon show, there's usually between like 5 and like 15 people there. It's very small, but it's regular, and I'll just ask people about their week, and usually things that come up that are funny, and I'll be like, oh, what's your job, or what's your name, and we'll go around and do names, and then it's like now everybody's in that bubble together, and then the way that the music can impact that group is like so much greater, because we all like know something about each other, you know what I mean? And so it's not just me sitting on stage and then like that's a unit, it's like the whole thing is a unit. And so I think that's, and then the obsession I have with comedy is the way that comedians think about, I guess, or the way they observe life and like are detail oriented about it, and then can like make quick associations. And I think to have good banter, that's like a part of it. And I mean, yeah, every musician wants to be a stand-up comedian. That's like the joke, right?
Of course, yeah.
And I would love to, but what I love even more than that is being able to like make people laugh and like bring them all together, and then play a really sad song that like they're already open and now it's like hitting.
Oh, I think some of the best moments, whether it be in movies or theater or what have you, come from one emotion switching to the opposite. A funny moment followed by something sad happening, bigger impact. I have a interviewee style question.
I love it.
Only because you said this earlier, and I've been waiting for a moment, and there hasn't been one.
Yeah.
You said,
oh no, we're good.
When you're performing,
yeah,
this is way back at the initial conversation, what you need, what you get from people, and you reacting to they're nodding along with you, or they're engaging in that way. But then you said, like, oh, they're not on their phone, they don't have their head down, they're engaged. What about the person who is on their phone, who's got their head down, because that's the person they are, and then they go home and become obsessed with you because they absolutely enjoyed everything, but that's how they engage? That doesn't resonate with you?
No, it does,
way?
yeah.
Okay.
The lesson of that, and like, I guess those are, like, I would never know about that, right? So,
right.
Who's to say? Maybe if they wanted to send me a message or something.
Instagram followers, or
or
I mean, you don't have an album yet, but you're supposed to downloads and those. Like, eventually, there might be ways to tangibly look at that in a different light.
The lesson of that to me hits the hardest if you're like playing a cocktail party and everyone's talking the whole time, and then at the end everyone comes up to you and they're like, that was so beautiful, you know what I mean? Like, that is that to me.
Does that happen then?
Oh yeah, every time. You're playing for people talking, you think nobody's listening. Every time you play a party where it's not like a sit down and listen, it's that is the vibe. So like,
and what goes through your mind? I'm sorry to
but I
want to know.
This is why I brought it up.
You being up there, you're playing, and you head up, no one's paying attention.
Yeah.
How do you keep going?
Well, so literally, the dialogue, this is what I'm trying to work on, because the inner monologue of those moments is, you're bad. Like, my mind is literally saying to myself, you are bad. You are so bad at this. You're terrible. Nobody likes this. Everybody can tell that you're not playing in time. Like, you know, and it's like the ego of being like, everyone at this party is thinking about me and how bad I am. Like, that's obscene. But then you get people, and whether they really heard you or whether it's like, the social norm to come up after a musician plays and be like, that was good. But usually I'll get like other jobs out of it. You know, so it's like there is evidence that people do care, even when it doesn't appear that they care. But the reason I talk about it, people nodding their heads and all that, like, I also actually, something I do a lot is I bring markers and paper to my shows, because sitting in an audience is like awkward, and it's like gives people something to do. They can do something while they're listening, you know, distract
Really?
them. Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that.
But just like, you know, it's.
See,
it's
I would appreciate that'd be something I would want.
Because you get
I
something
want
to
my
do,
head down
like
and
a task.
yes, yeah.
You know, and then sometimes too, that's a way to bring introverts into the like bubble, because I'll be like, oh, what did you draw? And then they like someone, even people who are really shy can like hold up a piece of paper to an audience, you know. So but I do like when. I mean, this is the same in my friendships and relationships. Like, I like when people show actively that they are like engaged and with me. You know what I mean? And so it's not that I have an issue with the person who's head down and in the phone. It's more that like I really, really appreciate it. I'm more drawn to giving. I have more ability to give energy to people who are going to show that they're present with me. You know what I mean?
That's
not
really,
a judgment of.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's natural. But
Yeah.
I just find that interesting. Here you are, and that's what I think I can't do, because I go through that same process of I'm doing something,
Mm-hmm.
or I get rejected for a grant, and the first thing comes up to my head, well, you're dumb,
Yeah.
you're stupid, you
Right.
couldn't do this, how could you not do this? And I think as a performer,
Yeah.
if I was up there, because I used to act, that was the first thing that I ever did,
Right.
and I don't know why I never felt that way, but I never had that. When I was on stage, I never had my internal monologue was, what's the next thing I have to do?
Right.
Like, it wasn't about what's going on out there, but
Right.
if I did think that, I think I'd stop.
You
I'd be like,
stop in the middle of the show?
yeah, I think I would freeze and be like, you're not laughing at the line I just said. Like, I would find that really hard to
Right.
push through.
Well, but the paradox of it is that I am actually so good at what I am doing that I don't even have to think about it, and I get to think about how bad I am at doing it. Which is hilarious.
That's really hilarious.
Because
I can't even. I'm so glad I got that on recording, because that's
I've never said that before.
That's
but,
really funny. That's really funny.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's like the only reason that your brain can be shitty to you right now is because you're on autopilot, because you've done this
Because
hundreds
you're
of
so
times.
good.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating to me, because one of the things that I note things in discussions to either reflect on later or write a little thing about our discussion and write things down. And one thing I said is, you've used the term ego in a negative and a positive, all in the same conversation.
Right.
And I only ever hear it from people in a negative. Oh, what an ego. So the ego is just a thing that you have, that you have to work with.
Yeah, everybody has it. Yeah, I like ego. I like people who are like confident in themselves and aware of their skills. And I was watching videos of myself from like 2016, and I was like, you were delusional that you were like, could do this. Like, you were fine, but you were definitely not as good as you thought you were. You know what I mean? And so there is a level of ego and delusion that helps you get to where you want to go. And I'm sure
true.
6 years from now, I'll look back and feel the same way. You know, I don't think ego is only bad if you are doing it at the expense of like being grounded.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think the minute you do anything that doesn't ground you and negatively starts impacting the people around you, people you want to work with, people you want to connect with, even for me, random strangers, that's when I have to like, okay,
yeah,
now it's time to pull back.
For sure. And I've done things. I'll get off stage and I'd be like, am I the greatest living performer? Like, I will. And I think that's why I've had to think about ego so much, is because unchecked, I would go off.
You say that. I'm laughing only because I've thought those things.
Right.
I've thought those things so hard that even now, when I'm like, did you really? There's a part of me that's like, yeah. I am that good. Like, Shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's the part of me that's
Yeah.
younger is almost still stronger than me.
Yes, of course.
Where I think back and go, I don't know if I was that good. And then part of me is like, are you kidding me? You did this thing.
Yeah. When you were that
good.
age.
Yeah, like
yeah.
it is that good. So it's almost as though I'm battling with my past self, and my past self
Right.
is winning.
But why do we take the voice that's like, you are dumb at face value, and then take the voice that's like, you are amazing, and be like, no, you're wrong?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I was about to answer it, but now I don't have one. Well,
we think that the negative voice is some kind of like earnest, like friggin', I don't know, like a saint being like, oh no, you're not good enough. And then like the good voice is like, why do we give that bad voice so much weight? I don't know.
My positive voice
Mhm.
is as strong as my negative one.
Right.
They just come out at two different times.
I think so. I actually think mine is as strong as well, but I think culturally it's like not as acceptable. Everyone is allowed to hate themselves, but you are not allowed to like think you're really good. I think the like extreme ego that is like labeled toxic, air quotes, is the result of like a hyper fact, like an opposite swing. So usually people who are like that are actually very insecure. And so you go, the further you go, like I think about the moments where I was like, I'm the greatest living performer, just ridiculous. And those moments usually are like maybe after a series of like pretty tough shows, and then I have like one good show, and I'm like, okay, I need to grasp, and let me hold so tightly to this so that I can feel good about myself. But then I think what happens over time is that if you can like come kind of meet in the middle, there is just like genuine self-love. And then that gets mislabeled as ego. If you're like, yeah, like when people compliment me, I say thank you, like I work really hard, or like,
yeah,
I appreciate, I agree, I think I crushed that, And if I don't think I crushed it, I'll say it. Like that's what you said.
Yes, that's exactly what I do, and sometimes people are shocked.
Yeah.
But it's just an honest take where I'm just trying to be on that same level. Like, if I agree with you, I'll agree with you. If I don't, I want to go do the work to improve.
Right. And how would you feel? Okay, so this is something I literally did last night, but how would you feel if you're at a show and a singer sang a song, and then at the end it's like, man, I crushed that? Like, would that bother you?
If they crushed it, no, that wouldn't bother me.
But what if they didn't?
Then that would bother me.
Why would it bother you?
Because they didn't crush it.
But wouldn't it just be like fun to see them like that's
sure.
fun. It'd be funny. At
Yes,
least.
I would say it would be funny.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd say it wouldn't. Okay, let me reframe bother. Yeah. It wouldn't bother me in the sense that I would think about it again, other than the exact moment of you going,
right,
I crushed it, and me thinking,
which is hilarious.
Which has happened. There's been theater shows that I've watched where I'm directing a show, where someone is doing something, and I can tell they think they're great, and I'm going, you're not doing it. Like you're not hitting where you think you're hitting.
Talking about inner monologue, all I ever felt when I had to act and sing at the same time was like, you're so bad.
Oh, you were.
It was not. It's okay.
No. Listen. I'm honest when it comes to my reflections back. I thought your performance in 13 was very good.
You're being far too generous.
I'm not, because
the way I say
the context of that show, the context of that show was everyone's at a high school level. For being a high school student from emoting, it was very good. Would it be good if you did that exact performance now? No, because that you're older. But during that time, your context was good.
That is a space in which I truly felt so uncomfortable. And when I tell this story, like just in terms of my skill level, when I tell this story, people are like, how did you become a musician? And I was like, well, I was in high school. I started doing musical theater because I wanted to be on a stage and singing. And then the minute somebody said, you can be in a band, I was like, I'm never doing theater again.
Listen, I don't remember everything you were in, but every time I remember working with you, it was nothing but pleasurable. And I think when you're doing what we were doing, a space for young people to create, but doing the best quality possible, which I knew was never going to be Broadway, but that doesn't mean you don't take it seriously. You try to give the best thing possible. So we have people leaving the theater going, that was way better than I thought it was going to be, which always happened. You were never, ever in the realm of the people like, we can't work with this person, whether it be for attitude, talent, ability, whatever. It was all, when you came and auditioned, it was all like, okay, good, Savannah's here.
That's very
So
sweet.
that was
I-
always
Yeah. In terms of the like chase the dream that's chasing you though, you know, I would much rather not be just like a neutral person. I'd much rather be like an additive person, and that's why being a musician is much more fruitful than being a theater performer. And I like saw Tyler in once, and I'm like, that's what you should be doing.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
Tyler.
Like he is
Yes.
the person to
But
do that.
Tyler was always that way. We knew
It was
Tyler
a
had
good
talent
thing.
from the very beginning.
Yeah.
But I mean, he cultivated it, and he
Of
it's what he
course.
wanted to do.
But like that's where like you see me acting, and then I'm like, and then I sing a song, and I like open up, and
Yep.
it's like, well, that person should probably be a
For sure.
a musician.
But that's why 13 works so well for you.
Yeah.
Because your character was so closed off that it was perfect.
Right.
You didn't have to
That's
come
true.
out of your shell.
That's
It was literally
Right.
perfect.
Oh, what I was going to ask you is about you're approaching it again. Are you interested in creating this in a way that allows you space and or time and or like I don't know the means to feel your feelings while you create your work? Or are you going to do the same thing again where you like head to the nose to the grindstone like 7 years down and then you'll feel them all later? Like, are you interested in integrating feeling into this process?
Depends what is needed of me.
Why don't you decide? Why don't you get to decide?
Well,
Because you're creating it.
yes, but when I create something,
Yeah.
especially when I did it before, at least, I don't know what this is going to become.
Right.
When I did it before, it quickly became bigger than me.
Right.
And when I believe something's bigger than me, I have to put its values or its needs or its interests first. And that's where the thinking of it like a child in that metaphor kind of works for me, where I did what was best for the theater company more so than what was best for me, including letting it go.
Right.
Including eventually saying, you now must leave the house,
Right.
and I'm not going to help you anymore.
Right.
Including having to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't have an answer to your question yet, because I think I'm in the beginning of it. If I work with artists who need the space to create their work,
Yeah.
and my role can be to deal with the logistics so they don't have to deal with money so they don't have to deal with the hard stuff so they don't have to, then I will be strong for them if that's what I need to be. If I enter an atmosphere where artists want me to feel with them, and that's part of their journey, they want me to be part of it, then that's different. Then
Right.
I will do what is needed to make it as successful as it can become.
Yeah, I guess maybe the question is partially about like work-life balance too then. Like, are you like, is there something about how Blue Canoe became an all-consuming project? Are you, I mean, maybe I'm projecting because I'm also trying to do this, but like as you age, are you trying to create a life that isn't all consumed by the work part of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it outside of the work.
Right.
So one thing I did learn from my time
Yeah.
before, when I was running, a theater company from basically like 19 to 31,
Yeah.
I didn't exercise. I didn't have really a social network that was separate from it. I worked 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
I never paid myself a cent because I felt like it was wrong to take money from the company.
Oh my
All
God.
those things I've corrected.
That's okay. That's
All
really
of
what I'm
those.
asking, I think, is like the sustainability of, because to go 7 years and not get to be
Yes.
a human person is
Yes.
really hard.
I wanted to ask you about creating the music for this podcast.
Oh yeah, true.
But I'm going to reframe it now
Okay.
because of something you just said. You're an artist. You create your art for you.
Yes.
You create. It's very emotional.
Yeah.
So when you're asked to create something, you're commissioned.
Yeah.
You accepted what I said almost without real question. You had some questions, but you just did it.
Yeah.
So if I come to you and I say, here's a performance date at the National Arts Center and I want you to do it, and you say yes, is that interfering with your artistic process because it's less natural?
No. I mean, if you offered me a show at the National Arts Center, would that be interfering with my process? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, because I'm basically saying, well, okay, what if I said I want new music?
Like my own music?
Yeah, I want you to create new music for a new show.
Yeah, I could do that. I think
Because that's not organic. It's being sort of forced, right?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just lie to you and I'd bring you a bunch of old songs. You don't know my music.
No, exactly. You get away with it
Like
too.
it's brand new.
Yeah.
But I think commissions in general, this is interesting because I'm also a painter and I sell my artwork. We didn't talk about that. But
We did not talk about that.
That's fine. But I really struggle to do commissions for painting because I haven't put as much time into like developing the craft of being a painter, and so I just paint when it's fun, and then something comes out and then people buy it if they like it. But with music, I have a 4-year degree. I have a lot of experience performing. I have enough trust in myself that given a deadline or like a circumstance, I can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the podcast song was so fun to me because I'm obsessed with podcasts, and it was like this marriage of like two things that I really love. And so, and I can think of all the podcasting songs that I like and all the ones that I don't like. Like, have you ever listened to Mike Birbiglia's podcast?
I don't know.
Okay, his theme song sucks.
Oh, okay.
It's just like poorly recorded and it's like jangly guitar, and I just, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, this will be a cool way to do that. I think in terms of forcing songwriting, I probably could use a little bit more of that in my life.
Really?
Because I only work organically right now.
Right.
And so if someone was going to give me an opportunity so big, I would like gladly jump on the like, let me write. Or you're like, let's say you were like, let's write a show about the water, and I had to write all these songs about water. Like that would be, I trust myself enough to be able to do that, and I think it would be a cool opportunity. It doesn't mean that those are the songs I'm going to perform and like sing and resonate the most with, but I could do it. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
No, it does. Yeah. It's good to know.
That's
And sometimes an artist wants to work organically. Sometimes they want to work with deadlines. You're saying a mix?
Yeah, I say I lean towards working organically. All the best songs I've ever written just happen. You know, that's the cheesiest thing to say, but it's like true.
I think that's true of a lot of things.
Yeah.
I really do.
And I think that's the difference. That's what separates like being a songwriter and being a working musician. It's like sometimes you have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's a different skill. It's a different challenge.
1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. Produced and edited by me, Mike Shepard. Original music by Savannah Shea. Thank you to this week's artists and the local restaurants who host us. For more on 1,000 Meals with 1,000 Artists and Soul One, please visit soulonearts.ca. If you're an artist, feel free to reach out to us on our website and connect for your own meal. Thank you for listening.